Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, good morning. What's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio, where you could always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. I'm your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octurian Starseed, and today is Monday, August 24th, 2015. Glad to be back on the air. We had a crazy week last week, did a border run to Panama. We're broadcasting live here again from Capos, Costa Rica. We have an awesome show lined up for you today. Two special guests, Dr. Richard Allen Miller coming on the second half, and also after the Daily Download, we have Edward Twitchell III talking about a very important and amazing event that he's involved with and taking part in. But first, we want to give a shout out to StarseedRadio.com for the latest news and updates. We always have new articles posting up. We have our Twitter feeds up there. Also, Ryan Matthew Dernix from BellwetherPost.com. And also, if you haven't received your free piece of Elite Shungite, please give us a call. I want to get this stone into you and your family's hands. It's an amazing stone. Check out StarseedTechnologies.com for more information, or call toll-free 888-333-4026. Again, that number is 888-400-2328. I said it wrong the first time. Or you can check StarseedTechnologies.com and fill out the information form on the left-hand side. I also want to send you information on free energy and also how to build your own solar panels, how to make earth batteries. I have about 15 amazing PDF files I want to send to you. Thank you for the listeners reaching out. We love getting this type of information into your hands. So again, the toll-free number is 888-400-2328, or go to StarseedTechnologies.com and receive your free piece of Elite Shungite, amazing stone, and also information on free energy. We're also going to talk about a webinar coming up this week that we're going to be doing, a 5-part series over the next 5 months. It's going to be real exciting with the amazing guests we have lined up for that. But let's go ahead and start the show. We're going to start off with our daily quote. And the quote from our very own goes like this. What is the point of having... Oh, sorry. Start again. What is the point of being alive if you don't at least try to do something remarkable? From your very own John Green. I don't know who that is, but whoever he is, a shout out to him. Again, what is the point of being alive if you don't at least try to do something remarkable? We try to do something remarkable every day. With that, we're going to start the daily download and joined by our very own Ryan Matthew Dernick. Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Good morning, Jim. How are you doing?
Doing good. Lots of news, lots of things happening, lots of activity in the Dow. So let's go ahead and get the daily download started and tell us what is happening over the last 24, 48 hours with Mother Earth and Earth changes.
Exactly. Well, in regards to solar activity actually come up a lot and increase. Sunspot AR2403 has a beta gamma delta magnetic field, and this means that it's harboring energy for strong solar flares. So this behemoth sunspot is now directly facing Earth, and most forecasters estimate a 55% chance of N-class solar flares and a 10% chance of an X-flare. So we, at the very least, there will be this increase in solar activity will lead to more auroras in the northern hemisphere. And in regards to other news, of course, there's always a lot of Earth changes, earthquakes. But the most notable earthquakes as of right now is a 5.0. Magnitude earthquake 113 kilometers east of Ust-Kamskash, Stary, Russia, 4.9, 59 kilometers southeast of Io, Peru, a 5.7, 83 kilometers northeast of L'Esperance Rock, New Zealand, a 4.8, and also another 4.8 as well, the first one in southeast of Nami, Japan, and the other one 18 kilometers northwest of La Serena, Chile. And the 5.5 was also 31 kilometers northwest of La Serena, Chile, which could be foreshocks before a larger earthquake event in that area. And also over the weekend, there was a 5.1 in the Nepal region. As everyone knows, that 7.8 magnitude earthquake that It took many lives and did a tremendous amount of damage in the Nepal region over the summer. And now on to other news. The economic news is just the main focus right now is I was talking to you yesterday, John, in the evening, and because it's a day ahead over in China and over in the West Pacific countries. So Australia lost about 4% by 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. Their time on Monday last night, basically because they are ahead. And then 3% or more was lost in the Nikkei in Japan, and also about 8% was lost in China at the end of the day. So what does this really mean? Well, we're all tied into China. It's a global systemic system now, and everything is, as you know, systemic. Everything is connected, and interconnectivity means that we're all getting pulled down by the fact that China's manufacturing sectors have been going down, and they've been devaluing their currency for the second week in a row. And the stock market early on in the Dow Jones went down a whopping 1,000 points. It's now leveled off a little bit and covered some of those losses. It's up now. It's a loss of only 293 points. The Nasdaq's down 63 points. The S&P is down 56 points.
And also, let's remind everybody that this is all rigged, and it doesn't matter if it drops 2,000, 5,000 points. They'll just adjust it. They'll fix it. But once the world markets, I think, catch wind of it, Ryan, they're all going to pretty much go down. They're not going to be able to do much. Just even last week, we talked about the 400 richest families that lost $182 billion just last weekend alone. But, hey, just numbers. They're figurative. They'll just punch numbers, new numbers back, and they have their money back because that's how it's run these days, unfortunately.
Exactly. And collectively, those families actually collectively, if you look at the large-scale wealth of the whole world as a whole, lost 6% of their own wealth. And I'm really not shedding a tear for them because those people are absolutely ridiculously wealthy in any event. But also the Lebanon minister over the weekend, there were riots in Lebanon, in Beirut. They had to deploy army personnel because they had trash riots. And the trash protest, basically, as it was called, was just a catalyst, really, for the fact that they are having problems with the rating downgrades. And the Lebanon minister even said that he really feels that there is going to be a large global market correction amid a stalemate going on, not only in his own country, but across the board, because they may be unable to pay wages next month in Lebanon. And that's really why protesters rioting is because, and the clashes occurring in the streets, was the inability to really resolve the crisis over the catalyst, which was the garbage disposal, and as it was called, the trash protest. The other news, no room to back down. South Korea is adamantly not backing down. They're not going to stop their propaganda. They are not going to cower and fear from Kim Jong-un and his psychopathic regime of basically having, here, I'm doing it right now, Kim Jong-un, come after us because, honestly, I think you're a lunatic.
He's as crazy as his father.
He's as crazy or crazier than his father. You have celebrities going over there like Dennis Rodman going to play video games with the guy and play b-ball. He loves American movie pop culture. And now, 50 subs have went AWAC.
That's right. Don't forget the 50 missing subs in deep water.
They're missing, and they're in deep water amidst these increasing tensions and the fact that Seoul, South Korea, as a whole, has said, we're not going to back down. We're going to keep pushing out the propaganda, and there's nothing you can do about it. And on the other news,
and talking about propaganda, I just want to say real quick, I saw an article, Ryan, that Google was ordered to remove links of stories about Google removing links to stories. I thought that was an interesting article. Talk about censoring, we have North Korea and China and these other, communist countries. Yep. But hey, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they're censoring just as much, if not more, than some of these other countries. Just want to point that out.
And let's keep it in mind. Why do other countries like China not want Google in there? Let's think about what Google is. Google, if you look at the people that founded Google, they are individuals that are with the NSA initially and other intelligence agencies in the United States. It is a spy fusion data mining hub.
That's right. Let's not forget who they hired for the Homeland Security Department, a former SS Nazi and former Russian general, head of propaganda for Mother Russia, and the head of the SS Secret Police. That's who our U.S. Department hired to run our Homeland Security. I love bringing up that fun fact because 99% of the time no one knows that. But yeah, look up Mr. Wolf and the SS and the Nazi SS Wolf and also the general. I mean, it's crazy that we would hire them. They're not even citizens, full citizens of the United States. Anyways, on to the news.
And on to other news. As we know, what we've created basically is ISIS to a great degree by misappropriation of funds with terrorism and stuff like that. ISIS blows up ancient temple at Sirius Palmyra ruins. Excellent. They're
Oh my
blowing
God!
up ancient
Again, those guys are
artifacts.
always blowing up ancient sites. That stuff's got to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, really, come on.
Really, honestly, ISIS is a joke to me. I think that these kind of jihadis, they're basically like destroying really, really amazing artifacts of history. And of course, last week they also beheaded an 83-year-old independently educated, not under, of course, a university, but 83-year-old individual that was protecting Syria's artifacts, and they beheaded him. And before they beheaded him, they're like, "Oh, where are the treasures?" Because they're jihadis, apparently. They're supposedly jihadis, and they're in a religious war, but they want the treasures. That doesn't sound very religious.
They're into raping women, beating women, and doing all that stuff in front of people. We've heard numerous stories. They're also executing all the Yazidis. If you're familiar with the Yazidis nation, the Yazidi tribe, they're executing them all over the place, doing a total annihilation, which we got to do a whole story on that one day. Since we're talking about death and mentioning that, I want to talk about a good article that I found. Talked about bye-bye coffins. These organic burial pods will turn you into a tree when you die. I'm going to post this article up. It's awesome. They're burial pods, Ryan. You go in this pod in the fetal position. They plant you under a tree, and as time goes, the roots go down, and you turn into the tree as the tree grows, and you get to pick your own tree. I thought that was quite an interesting article over the weekend.
Quite interesting. Well, and I'd like to salute these Americans, as well as a Brit, as well as also a French American national.
That's right, the terror attack.
Who stopped the terrorist attack. Luckily, also the AK-47 jammed. One of the individuals almost lost his finger in this quarrel, and so they were all honored as now by the French government as knights. So hey, I salute these individuals. I think that they did a very heroic deed, and we need to have more people stand up in any form or fashion they can, whether by using their brute force or using their intellect. Knowledge is power, and don't back down.
And I just want to say, always check out Ryan's information on Bellwether Post. He's always putting out good articles all day long, 24/7. So always check back to starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. And also I want to mention History's Lost Lesson, Ancient Nuclear War Among Indus Valley Civilizations Reexamined. We talked about this over the weekend. I want to really bring on a special guest, Ryan, at some point. But this is a huge story. There's proof all over the planet that atomic bombs, nuclear weapons have been used up to 50,000 years ago. Okay, it talks about Atlantis, and there's factual data. I really want to go into this story more, but with that,
and Game of Thrones.
I was going to say the Game of Thrones person of the day is going to be
Jared Fogle.
Jared Fogle, the subway. He's a
pedophile.
The pedophile.
He just got indicted for it, and he's probably going to go to prison for quite some time.
I saw a picture with this idiot with George Bush, taking pictures with his big subway. This just goes to show America. You find someone who's like basically a regular person, you put them on, give them stardom, give them fame, and embrace them as the subway hero. And what it turns out is he's a pedophile, indicted, and it's a common story here in the U.S. Unfortunately, just like Clinton and the rest of them that are pedophiles. We've talked about that numerous times. Mr. Epstein, we talked about. So, Game of Thrones official person of the day, Jared Fogle. Ryan, thank you so much for the daily download, and we'll put your information up on starseedradio.com. With that, we're going to bring our first guest of the show. He is a regular to the show, and we love having him come back because ever since the Occupy Wall Street movement had began, Edward Twitchell Hall III has been an advocate for peace and wellness and health and sustainability all over the planet. He attended the UN Council and the Rio Convention for the Agenda 21. He was one of the main organizers of the Occupy movement when it started in New York. So it's always good to have him back on to see what he's involved with now. And this new event we're going to talk about today is really amazing. So with that, Ted, thank you for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be on, you guys. How are you?
Oh, doing good. And I just want to say blessings and light and all the good vibes to you and your newborn coming. I wanted to just say that's amazing news you shared with me, so thank you. And that's just so exciting. So shout out and blessings to you guys. So with that, tell us about this amazing event, Ted. We have about 16, 17 minutes. If you can give us a little history on it, what this event really stands for. I think it's very powerful, and I want people to really check this information out and do your due diligence and listen to what Ted says and research and learn it because it's parts of history that we don't know. Ted, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shona. I found out about this gathering that is happening at the end of September, in the beginning of October, by doing the work with my wife on the Two-Road Treaty, the oldest treaty in the continent. And one of our friends she's an ancestor of the Wampanoag. She's the Wampanoag, which are the people that welcome the Pilgrims first. And she's also a descendant of the Mayflower. And so she's just a wealth of perspective with all the work that she does, peace walking and with teaching children. And she told me about this gathering, a historic gathering that's really getting to the core of the corruption in, I'd say, it's almost like our bankrupt system, and it's being organized by some other very deeply rooted American families who've been around since the same amount of time, living in the land of Thoreau and Emerson, where sort of the Enlightenment and the seeds of this call for an independence and freedom of religion was born. And so this gathering that's coming up, which I've been asked and invited to help organize public input for, is called Bretton Woods 4. And Bretton Woods is this strange kind of large mansion meeting place for the world's elite historically in New Hampshire. But somehow this wonderful family of really grounded Americans has secured that space for a week for a gathering of citizens, and very powerful citizens. Martin Luther King III, Gandhi's grandson, the faithkeeper, one of the faithkeepers of the Mohawk, are all coming together.
That's amazing.
For this. It's incredible, and what they're coming together for is to highlight the history of what Bretton Woods is about, and to reclaim our central financial institutions with actionable bills that are a bill that is passing in New Hampshire right around the primaries, to reclaim their state bank to be a public bank, a bank controlled by the people, for the people, and accountable to the people, and not a private bank, which requires all of these different fees, FDIC fees, that's like insurance fees that the federal government makes private banks do, which includes the Fed, because the Fed's a private bank. The very core of what's really out of balance in our country is in who has the right to issue our currency. And this bill, called the Common Sense Bill, is being presented at this Bretton Woods 4 gathering. And why are they doing this at Bretton Woods, this weird kind of exclusive, unimaginably huge mansion? Because that is where the world's leadership after World War II gathered to decide what would be the future monetary system of the world to ensure stability after all of the carnage. And this is where we kind of get that paperclip type. Paperclip is this whole kind of policy where paperclip basically sort of rubbed off all of these crimes from scientists of Nazi Germany and rehired them for NASA, and this run, this mad
Operation
dash.
Paperclip talking.
Yeah, Operation Paperclip. I mean, this gathering was all in quote good for good reasons, but their outcome ended up basically forcing the world to submit to a private bank and to make the U.S. dollar, which we had already lost control of in America in 1912 with 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act. It goes all the way back to 1912, but in 1945, at this location, the United States exported our debt-based economy, and now the world is impoverished and nothing is working. So this beautiful gathering of leadership, people who are instrumental in the formation of the Bitcoin community, of course, these civil rights leaders and descendants of civil rights leaders, they're all coming together to highlight and spread and enhance the success of this bill called Common Sense in New Hampshire. And it's modeled after this bill from, or not a bill, but it's actually, there's one bank in the United States that operates as a public bank, and that is the Bank of North Dakota. So here's just like a tiny bit of the data on the North Dakota banking system, and this New Hampshire bill is modeled after North Dakota's bank, which is a public bank. It is not a private bank. And this is what it basically does, is that North Dakota bank started in 1945, and if we look at how it operates, it actually withstood the 2008 crisis and consistently outperforms Wall Street in terms of the investment strategy within the state. So this bank is not based on debt, it's based on investments. So the State Bank of North Dakota invests in public works. That's what banks are supposed to do when we look at national sovereignty. This is like the core of our sovereignty. Besides our borders and the military and our language and our government, our currency is what actually is like the spigot of our whole commonwealth. So North Dakota's bank, on average, had a 25% return on equity. So not debt. It's not like, hey, you owe us something. No, it's a state bank. We own that bank. We're investing equity on it, our value, not owing anybody, because it's kind of a magical thing. But that's how banks are supposed to work. So since 2008, that North Dakota bank's annual return on investment was between 17 and 26%. So since 1945, the North Dakota bank has deposited its profits in the state's general fund. So whatever return on investment, and these are 25% on average return on investment because it's being done right, that the profits from that investment go back into the state fund for state works, for infrastructure. So in the past decade, just in this decade, after the 2008 crash, the North Dakota State Bank has returned over $300 million to its general fund.
That's amazing. Wow. What a model.
And so we can have that in every state. So this is happening right during the primaries. And
Ted, we have a few minutes left. I hate to cut you off, but how can people get involved? Give us some website information. How can people get in touch with you if they want to be a supporter in their state? What are some websites and numbers and emails or whatever you can give out so people can take part, take action, and help you get this information out and support this event?
Right. So the best way is first to go to Bretton Woods, BrettonWoods, IV, as in 4, Roman numeral 4.org. I've been asked to actually coordinate the communication system and the public input systems and to set up the partner event in New York City, which is where this is going to really network. So I've just been given this task 2 weeks ago, so I've just been calling like all the right people as much as I can, and I actually really need like dedicated help to do that. So the way you can get in touch with me is at Tedward Hall on Twitter, at TEDWARDHALL. I've also started up a quick just Facebook group, which is like Bretton Woods IV, all one word, in groups. If you search like Facebook groups, it's public, it's open. You can get in touch with me that way. And if anybody wants to just get involved and you know how to get in touch with Jonah, just get in touch with Starseed Energy Radio and just work as a team with Jonah, because this is a piece of history.
That's right. Thank you for that. That's why we want to ask the listeners to take action. This is an action-based show. We really need people to step up. There's a call for action. You were one of the original organizers, and they're at Ground Zero with Occupy TED. You've been involved with a lot of different movements now supporting the indigenous. So we really need people to pick up the phone, do what you can, get in touch with me. I'm involved with a lot of different projects, from the Cherokee to the homeless to all over the planet, trying to sustain different factions of food, security, water, power. So we have lots of stuff, going on. So like Ted said, get in touch with Ted, get in touch with me, and we can help point you in the right direction to help take action, because that's what needs to happen. We all need to come together. Ted, thank you so much for coming on. And any last quotes or segments you want to leave us off with today?
Yeah, sure. All right, here's a quote from Ben Franklin. The refusal of King George to operate an honest colonial money system, which freed the ordinary man from the clutches of the manipulators, was probably the prime cause of the revolution.
Oh, thank you so much. Edward Twitchell Hall III, thank you again for coming on, and we'll bring you back on, update after the event, and get in touch with them. It's time to take action. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. You're listening to Starseed Radio.
Joe will be waiting there, we a shout. Joe will be waiting there. In this world of calamity, dirty looks and grudges and jealousy.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
Jedi Master? Yoda. You seek Yoda.
Yoda.
Clear your mind of questions. You must unlearn what you have learned. A Jedi's strength flows from the Force. That is the way of things. For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Its energy surrounds us.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio. A shout out to Yoda and the Force. You must unlearn what you have learned. That's what I've been doing the last 6 years since I had my awakening. Please check out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. And if you haven't called our toll-free number for some free energy information and also a free piece of shungite, give us a call, toll-free, 888-400-2328, or check out starseedtechnologies.com for some real technologies. We're now joined by Dr. Richard Alan Miller, who is a favorite to the show. Rick has been coming on for many years now. I love having him on because he has such a wealth and depth of knowledge of many different topics, including alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. Miller began working in the secret world of Navy Intel and SEAL Corp, and then MRU in the late 60s, and now has amazing experiences and conclusions to share with us all. He's also writing for Nexus Magazine in 3 major fields, also covering alternative agriculture, physics, and metaphysics. And we have him on the show because of his wealth of background in all these topics. With that, Rick, thank you for coming on the air. How are you today?
Good. How should I respond? Live from New York. It's
there you go, the Richard Alan Miller Show. Thanks, Rick, for coming on. And lots of news and stuff to cover, and I know you're involved with a lot of things, so we homed in on a few things. A big story we've been covering, Rick, and I know this is one of the topics you want to cover too, is the Jade Helm 15, Mastering the Human Domain. We've been covering this story for months now. It has launched. Telephone companies have gone down. I saw military all over the United States. It's definitely unprecedented. The media, it's a blackout, not covering us. Give us some updates on what is Jade Helm 15. What are some updates where it's at right now? What can you tell us, Rick?
Well, it's like a beta on how this new software, Jade 2.0, works. And they're shaking it down on profiling individuals and situations where they will push a little bit here and a very light nudge and then say who does what and why. And Jade 2 Helm software, this Jade software is kind of like out of science fiction. It's now got algorithms that can accurately predict your behavior before you even know what you're going to do. Now, this is creepy stuff. This is like out of Minority Report. And so with that said, they're testing in regions that have certain kinds of energies going on to see how accurately the J2 software can predict the next war game. That's what it is, war games. And they're doing beta tests just like if you want to know what our country is going to be like in 2 years, watch what's happening right now in Venezuela. That'll be an accurate beta on the way it's going. Well, it's with the money collapse, and right now we've had a reboot at Wall Street, but it's going to go downhill from there because there's no other place for it to go. Greece has already started a barter foundation, and now with Venezuela, their current money standard is what do you call that? Black market and barter again. That's where it's all going to go. And so you need to realize that at some point, money is going to be essentially useless. It won't be worth anything.
Thank you so much, Rick, for saying that, because that is what I've been saying for years, and I know you too. We have to take it back to basics. We have to get the money out of it, and everyone needs to be creative, do what they do. If they want to be a doctor or they want to be a painter, there's someone that wants to do every job possible, and it's time to take it back to basics where we can live in harmony and everyone can do what they really want to do versus being 9 to 5 doing something your whole life that you really don't want to do just to make money. Money is not...
You've got the essence of it. And really, what this J2 implies is that at our level of awareness, in terms of complacency, ignorance, ill-informed, where you don't have full disclosure on what's really going on around you, what you have is true will, not free will. And as such, what's happening next is that you are, at the end of the day, trying to complete your purpose here on Earth. And what actually happens at the end of everything, whether you did it kicking and screaming, the glass is half empty, or you did it with some sort of positive spin like the glass is half full, the one I'm now suggesting, besides the glass being refillable, that glass that fell on the ground and broke, the big question now is that glass half broken or half fixed? It's that is what
it's definitely half broken, I think, Rick, at this point.
There you go. It's half broken.
At this point. So we have Jade Helm kicking off. Why are they denying in the media? Why are they denying the news when reporters ask them about it? Oh, we don't know what Jade Helm is. They've been denying it for months now since the story broke. What's the secrecy? Why are they using all Navy SEALs? Why are they using all special forces?
I don't know. What I do know is that the media, nothing that's being reported in the media is real. Nothing. And that's right out of the gate, In other countries, they laugh at us, in terms of our stupidity of belief in NBC and CNN. I remember a time when we used to think CNN was the accurate reporting. That's no longer true.
That's right. I grew up like that too, thinking CNN was, if it's CNN, it's truth. Wolf Blitzer knows it. He's definitely reporting, and Larry King and all these guys are definitely reporting what's real. But I had that awakening 6-7 years ago. And since we're talking about news, Rick, give us your download on what you feel about the elections. What's happening with the election scene? Where is that going?
Man. Well, okay. So Donald Trump is a joke. That means that the Republican Party is doing a fait accompli by offering up a bunch of clowns. With Jesse Ventura being vice president, get a grip. And so, President of the United States used to represent our very finest and most educated. And the Dulles brothers were an example of that. Now, what has happened to the statesmanship? And Hillary Clinton is a shoo-in. There's nothing else running that has even close to her credentials, and yet she's a criminal. I just posted on Bill Clinton that he's one of the worst criminals out of Arkansas, and this is done by a judge, Supreme Court judge, older, talking about the Clintons. And if Hillary becomes our president, what happens next is she appoints Bill to head the United Nations, and now you have the most powerfulest couple in the world working for the Bushes. That's how it's going to work. So, in terms of voting in elections, I would rather vote for Donald Duck in a protest. And the whole thing's nuts. And it's like they're now so blatant as to not even offer us any candidates of, I'm going to vote for him because he's at least better than that. No, if you don't believe in your person, you should not be voting for them. And I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. And of course, Donald Trump is a joke. So with that said, where are all the statesmen, the people that were trying to do the right thing? Jimmy Carter came out in ARP last month. They did an interview in the old fart magazine like me. And that's what I read as ARP. And he said, Washington is for sale. Said it just in that many words. And that's, the naive president that was a physicist. His academic backgrounds were physics. And so I'm walking away from this because while I'm a nerd and I don't have astute in political things, this is crazy.
It is. Once you have lobbying and everything else played into it, it actually is for sale. Everything is bought out. We see Hillary not even releasing her emails. She's not even releasing who donated to the Clinton Foundation. They won't even release the names of who donated to the Clinton Foundation out of over 100 people that donated. They released 3 or 4 names or something. I mean, it's total secrecy. It's totally elitist.
Yep. They're all in there. And the thing is that it almost feels as if our system has been invaded by something, because these individuals, Hillary Clinton allowing her husband to get head while he was president in the White House, that's crazy values. And when I say that, it isn't like I haven't been around town, but that's nuts. This is supposed to be, the man is, or the woman is supposed to be our very finest, not most ruthless. And,
that's right.
Education and scholarship and true values that we would like to emulate. That's what a president is supposed to be. Where did that go?
Well, I think ever since JFK, we've been dealing with hand-picked presidents by the Bilderbergs and other elites. Ever since JFK, I don't think we've had a real president.
They don't comply. What do? They shoot them. And so that's how it works. And it's time for America to wake up and realize that the whole thing is illusion, it's not real, and that we are all now in a prison.
And Rick, let me bring this up because this is very important. You worked for Navy Intel. You worked for the government back in the 60s. You were in bed, if you will, with these administration officers. When you were there with the Navy working on mind control experiments and inventing that stuff, you took it very serious. It was for your country. It was patriotism. But we've seen that radically shift, as we just talked about. How do you see your mind control and stuff played out? How does that play out now?
The way my buddy Navy SEALs put it, this is no longer the America that I served and protected.
And how do you see some of those experiments you did? Are they being used today?
I'm sorry?
How are these mind control experiments and things you worked on in the 60s and 70s with Navy Intel, how are they being used today? Do you think they're doing it through TV? Do you think they're doing it through the Kardashians? What's your download?
The way the CIA put it back when I was doing my work in anesthesiology on synthetic telepathy, the way the CIA put it back then, mind control? No, we don't need mind control. We've got TV. We're already good to go.
That is sad, but it is true. Not to laugh, but it's true.
Now, let's talk about that for 1 second. Back in the 70s, it was like making DeLorean cars. We had no idea where our research was going to take us, and so it was okay because it was called blue sky. Today, in the 80s, it all changed. And if it did not have application, it would not get funded for further research. And that would suggest that the human were no longer trying to evolve in their knowledge base of technology, that everything was now about managing systems of market. And that's what happened in going from the 70s into the 80s. The 70s was still blue sky. The 80s was a fait accompli, done deal. And right now, you are about to elect. She should have been elected two terms earlier. Didn't work for whatever reason. Now here she is with her husband going to run the United Nations. Now that is the end of all of it. And right now, the United States is a third world country. They have no gross national product. We're even behind Mexico in the structure of our family. There are 2 generations in America now that have no family. That's why California now suggests that the state has more rights to the child than you do. And just so we're on the same page here, your children are possibly the single most important value or resource this country has, is our children.
Amen.
And the diversity of it.
Thank you, Barry.
And so what we're doing now is selling that down the river by removing cursive from Common Core. It's wrong. When I was in school, I had to take Latin in the 2nd grade. Where is that being taught now? And now they're teaching children not a signature.
Well, Common Core is designed by Bill Gates and other elites. We know this. We've been covering this story. Common Core is just dumbing down our children, period.
Well, yeah. And as such, that's where the real resources go. And more children are becoming autistic. Why? Because they're being poisoned. We are all toxic with aluminum and barium oxide. I did my own panels. I am now in a program of bioremediation, trying to at least keep part of my mind from aluminum toxicity and Alzheimer's. That's where it's all going to go.
So, Rick, what do you see in the forthcoming 3 months? We have a lot of people talk about economic collapse. Look at the markets right now. World markets finances, 10 to 25% on all values of currencies around the world are down. What do you see over the next few months? How could people prepare? What do you see coming?
I don't know for a fact. The sun is slowing down what's called a dormant phase. You can go to Suspicious Observers. He has a very nice video on this new development with our sun. It no longer has an 11-year cycle after all these years. And this, I just posted today, last month was the hottest month in recorded history on Earth. And that includes the Jurassic end. So we are already in a global temperature situation that it was higher that brought on the Jurassic period. And the only reason we have not had, it's 64 degrees in Antarctica. Iceland and Greenland are melting their core of ice, and the desalinization of the ocean is absolutely going to bring on an ice age. It'll be just like in the movie The Day After Tomorrow. And the only reason it hasn't happened is that the sun miraculously went into a dormant phase. However, there are other triggers that are messing with the sun. And what we've got to do now is realize that we're at the end of an epoch. And they're all going to get to witness it. And so there is only certain kinds of bugging in and bugging out that we can do. And for the 99% like me that doesn't even have the money to move, what am I going to do? Well, that's what I'm doing now. It's a new series it's a book I'm writing called Sustainable Lifeboats Within the Gardens of Zen. And there is some spiritual things that we could be doing to prep our behavior and the way we go into this change. It's always going to be about change. Here we are.
Yes, thank you for that. It is a spiritual progression. And you, like myself, Rick, that are really strapped down check to checks. More than 75% of Americans, an article came out over the weekend, don't even have more than $3,000 in their savings account. I don't know many people, even with $3,000. It's the whole country's like that. Over 100 million people on government assistance. I mean, this is really set up to fail, this system. We see it building up where it's going to collapse. It's a fiat currency. The dollar is going to come down eventually, unless we can collectively come up with a new system to make the old one obsolete by Buckminster Fuller. What do you think about that concept, Rick?
Well, I like to work with our children and start them early, like Head Start and Children's Coalition, and begin to realize that an autistic child, there's nothing wrong with that child at all. I have met Temple Grandin. There's nothing wrong with that person. And how is it that an autistic child can somehow do a bedding plant better than a master gardener? I'm telling you, we're missing the boat. Just because kids are different than other kids does not mean there's something wrong with them, because guess what? Those autistic children love like dogs do. They have a level of devotion and love that you can't find in a human being. They're gifted. And that is the part of it that we're all missing.
I agree. I think that if we had more a voice of the children, especially the ones coming in now with such great wisdom and simplicity, we can learn a lot. What are some things that people can do, do you think, Rick, to more educate themselves, prepare themselves for anything that may come up? Earth changes, political, you said spiritual. What are some spiritual practices or things that you do to better, get your mind and heart and soul into some changes that are coming?
So, Rudolf Steiner said, we are no longer at war in the physical world, that if we wish to change this world, the way we do it now is change ourselves, and the world changes with us. That is part of the new work I'm writing on the non-local mind in a holographic universe. I'll upload a couple of articles I'm writing on the structure of water and how psyche is brought into matter. The idea of taking responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. All of this is essential. And it's part of the big stew, because, in fact, our aliens and apocalypse are all part of the group mind making it real. Imagination is, at our level of consciousness, our level of awareness, imagination is reality. And if you wanted a metaphor, it's like a false god said, I'll let you live here in the physical world, and any thought you choose to have is true, and even more. And guess what? You are experiencing that. How's that working for you? And so, with that said, it is about internal landscape and the glass half full, and the fact that it's also refillable. And so you have the ability to take charge of how you go through this change. And there's a movie that people can watch that gives you some metaphor. It's called Astral City. And it's about a medical doctor watching himself die on an operating table. And at the moment of his death, what happens next? And it's a generic, non-religious overview of the future and what there were all time travelers, and that we've been sold a bill of goods and we're locked in matter, just like the saints say in meditation. I remember my teacher. Sharon,
I agree.
I remember my teacher, Sharon, saying, when someone asked him, are aliens real? And he said, this is a fifth plane mystic, quote, it doesn't matter. What it does matter is the fact that you can meditate and change this. That's my teacher. So you begin by going internal. Now, you want something practical, you do a physical metaphor and start with water. You should, everyone listening, this moment should have 3 days of water stored for everyone in the household, plus a backup plan on how to replace it the first day, should the grid be down longer than 3.
And when
that's a good place to start for sovereignty. And as you move toward this, it is not that you become more sovereign. It is about the journey of becoming sovereign. And that is called Path 25. It's an art form. Everybody has a different way of doing it. Gardens work as a metaphor. The way I did it is I restored my 280Z when I took surgeries in titanium in different parts of my body. And when I did my elbow, I changed the rust panel on the left side of the car. I did it as metaphor and rebuilt my car from scratch, and that's my body.
And when you talk about this mental state where your thoughts and awareness project, that is proven now in quantum physics, quantum mechanics. So what you're talking about is so important for people to really grasp. What you think, what you say, literally shapes and shapes this world every day. And if people knew that, I think that's the greatest secret.
So the media tries to put some kind of a weird spin on things because war is good for business. And oil is, this whole thing's nuts. And if you want a protesting thing, I think the single most important issue today is turn the switch off in nuclear energy and power. And the further you can get away from the need and use of electricity, you can have electricity running alcohol through a generator. And your alcohol could be coming from comfrey, a little crop of field over there that's your source of power. You can grow crystals that will be used to make solar panels. You can grow them like a crop. It's not like this is outside our abilities. It takes a different mindset in our approach toward what's going on. Most women have no clue how an internal engine combustion system works. What they do know is that if they put a key in this thing here and do certain behaviors, that they have expectations of performance on what the car is going to do and what it's not going to do. That's called cybernetic anthropology. It is a way like the Aborigines where it's magic. The woman doesn't think about how it works in order to use it. This is a new way of being in the universe like the Hopi or the Aborigines. It's a mindset. And what you do is you start with yourself. Don't worry about other people because other people have other things to do. And the bad news is none of us get out of here until you personally have finished what you're supposed to be doing. And so I'm stuck here. I'm waiting for you and trying to offer you some direction and taking the first step. Start with water. Start with making certain that you have backup on water, because if the grid were to collapse, and it will collapse, that's Matt Stein, it will collapse. You count on it. We had an X-band yesterday that hit the Earth. We're lucky. You know, we've had 2 kill shots that would have put us back into the Stone Age that went off in the opposite direction. And while the sun is in a dormant period right now, it's still burping. And it burps very interesting X-band because of the slowing down. And so we will probably have a grid collapse before we will have an ice age.
And that's why we cover space, weather, and earth changes every day, because it's very important stuff to pay attention to. Rick, thank you so much for coming on the air. As always, your website is drrichardallenmiller.com.
Actually, it's Richard Allen.
richardallenmiller.com, excuse me. And you're writing a new book, and you also are always publishing articles, and people could find your work on that website. So, Rick, thank you for your depth and knowledge as always, and for coming on Starseed Radio. Really appreciate your work.
There's a public outcry for people who want a better planet, and there are powers that be that let the people panic. Look at the Gulf of Japan, could they have really planned it? Heading for the iceberg like the Titanic.
Atlantic mystery, Atlantis white from history. The truth about the pyramids in ancient Mayan prophecy.
Space Odyssey, look into the anomaly.